First time I saw my future wife. Came through the door. The counter was on the west side of the building. She came in there and I was stocking the shelf. I turned around and saw her, and she had this pink shirt on and pink ribbon in her hair, and I can remember saying to my dad, I wonder whose sister she is. And he said, you just worry about going to school and don't worry about who's what. It was the love of my life. Weeks invited us up here, and my dad talked to Charlie Prescott and asked him if he wanted to sell the store, and he said yeah, and so my parents bought the store. Then my parents wanted to retire, and they put the store up for sale, and Jan and I talked about it, and we came home here, and that's how I ended up in Randolph. The store opens at 7:30, and I usually go over to the store around 6:30. The friends and neighbors come in at 6:30 and have a cup of coffee, and we sit around and shoot the bull. We had just put up fire tape for everybody to keep out. He went underneath it and was walking towards the fire, and I asked him what he was doing there, and he said he was taking pictures of the fire. I said, not from inside the tape, you're not. And I told him to get the hell out. He didn't like it, but I was a fire chief and he was a photographer, so he left. That was almost 24 hours. We went down there and did what the village told us to do and made sure the fire was out. It was a house fire on South Pleasant Street. Went over and talked to the owner, and I says, are all the kids out? They had a bunch of kids. I said, are all the kids out? And the lady said, yeah, but Abby isn't. And I said, well, who's Abby? And she says, our dog. So there was two firemen standing around, had air packs on their back. I says, go in there and see if you can find a dog. They went in there and they found Abby, and she was about on her last breath, I guess. They hauled her out, and I went over and I gave her mouth to nose air, and she came around. They took her down to the vets, and next thing I knew, she was home. 4 paws and a tail, still having that free paper rack of Shaw's. Barry D'Souza, he was the salesman for the paper, and he talked to me about whether we needed anything, and I told him that was right after that fire. So he talked that company into giving us the equipment to hook up to our respirator to give dogs and cats some air. I didn't know I was getting the award, and when the mail came, there was this letter from the governor. My bride was there, and it said that I was receiving an award on such and such a date and up in the Capitol. So I showed it to Jan, and I says, I don't really want to go to that. But we went anyhow. There's woods in the backyard. I can go hunting there. Baseball field in the backyard. I could watch them play baseball. Just there's a lot of place to roam. If I need a big city, I can go to Barrie or Lebanon. Life's hard. Life isn't made for sissies. When I was in Middlebury, I was on the ambulance and became the president in Middlebury ambulance, and came home here and was on the fire department and became a chief. So I figured I'd served my communities, even though I wasn't in the service. But you owe the country something you live in.